What is the most unsettling sound you've ever heard? Those emergency broadcast system sounds always give me goosebumps. The wails of a parent who's lost a child. Absolutely soul-crushing. The sound of the landline phone ringing in the middle of the night. You know it's never a good thing or a wrong number at that time of night. For some reason, a cell phone ringing in the middle of the night doesn't worry me as much, probably because it happened all the time in college and it was never bad news. But my landline's ringing as a kid was always a terrifying sound that made my stomach drop because I knew someone was dead and just didn't know who yet. I was wilderness camping in Wyoming with my boyfriend. Just the two of us. Many miles from civilization. At dawn, very near our tent, an elk bugled, and that's when I learned that fear can knock the breath out of you. I'd never heard an elk before. My dog howled the night my husband died. I have no words to describe it. Blood-curdling scream, sharply cut off in the middle of it. Don't know what happened to the person, was in a bad area and the place was flooded with cops afterwards. Tornado siren when there was no wind or thunder. Minutes later, all hell broke loose. I have paranoid delusions, and one night I vividly heard people break into my house. They were taunting me outside my door for hours. My dog sleeps at the foot of my bed and she wakes up when the Roomba turns on at night, so it helped me to rationalize. But it was still extremely terrifying, and I called my psychiatrist the next day. I used to work in news on tragic events. There's a certain sound parents make when they learn their child didn't make it. It's universal, distinct, and it's awful. The low oxygen alarms of dead firefighters at the 911 scene. I only saw it once on TV and it was heart-wrenching. Edit, pass alarms for lack of movement, not low oxygen. I had learned about those before and forgotten, thanks for reminding me. If you've had to do CPR before, you'll note that during the training you have to push super hard down onto the dummy in order to properly do it, and on an actual person you're more than likely to break their ribs if you press down with the proper amount of force if you're applying the same amount of force if done properly. That sound of ribs breaking is very distinct and very uncomfortable and unsettling. Walking in Pioneer Square in Seattle when I see a dude go stiff and tip backwards mid-step, it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I instantly got concerned and started running toward him as he pitched back. I was maybe 15 feet away when the back of his head hit the sidewalk. Not something I ever want to hear again. But the actual worst part, I got to his now prone body and, without touching him, tried to see if he was alert, conscious, breathing, and as I observed him I noticed a growing pool of blood coming from where his head hit the sidewalk. Thankfully this happened right across the street from the fire station. A lady stopped and stayed with him as I ran and grabbed some firefighters. Wild situation all around, but deaf don't want to hear a head hit concrete ever again. Mountain lion somehow raises the hair on your neck even when you've never heard that sound before. The sound of all those sirens going off after the collapse of the towers. Knowing that it's the body alarm system of hundreds of firefighters' uniforms that go off when a fireman is down. During one of my schizophrenic episodes, laying down in my bed with a cracked door to my room. My bed is right against the wall so I can see what's behind the door. I was laying down and heard a knocking on my door and said to come in. The knocking continued and I raised myself up to look at who was behind the door. There was nothing there, but the knocking continued for about an hour. I sat there in the far corner of my bed until I saw daylight when I realized there was no one behind that door. I can remember a few other auditory hallucinations, but for some reason the knocking is always the worst for me. When multiple dogs in the area start barking in the middle of the night, it always makes me feel like something is out there that shouldn't be, even though it's probably just some other animal wandering around. Owls screeching at you when you walk into a pitch black barn in the middle of the night. They do not hoot like cute little cartoon owls. That sound is some strange organic version of fingernails on a chalkboard, and it is absolutely horrific to hear it right above your head in a pitch black barn. We had a big cicada brood spawn a few years back, and every night the neighborhood sounded like someone was playing the world's biggest theremin all night. Very 50s sci-fi eerie. The sound my teacher made when she was taken into the office and told her only son had just died. I was 6, I'm 54 now, and it's still there. The ribs and sternum breaking when you do CPR on an old person.